Do you find it hard to say no to people?
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot my wallet again. Can I borrow money from you? I know you have work to do, but can you give me a ride, please? I'm sorry I didn't call in advance, but could you please?
Enough. If you don't know what you want, other people will tell you and you'll believe them. Setting boundaries and refusing to accept certain behaviors or requests can cause conflict and make us feel guilty and selfish. In the next 15 minutes, you will understand why boundaries are important and how to effectively communicate your needs to build healthy self-esteem and relationships. Let's go. Understand what boundaries are for you. Boundaries define who you are and who you are not. Recognizing your boundaries enables you to make conscious choices about how you spend your time, energy, and emotions. And they are also standards for how you'd like to be treated in your relationships. They can be different for different people. What others can easily accept might be a big deal for you and cause a conflict. Sometimes we feel the need to say yes to everything or just accept specific behaviors just to keep the peace and avoid conflict in that relationship. But in the end, we might end up doing something that doesn't make us feel fulfilled and then feel drained or resentful for wasting our valuable time. This will lead to long-term unhappiness and conflicts. We will blame others for making those requests and ourselves for accepting them. Setting boundaries can cause conflict, but it's worth it. Nedra Glover Tawwab, in her book Set Boundaries, Find Peace, believes that setting healthy boundaries allows you to feel safe and comfortable in your relationships. Without boundaries, your friends, co-workers, and loved ones will fail to live up to your standards as they won't know what those standards are in the first place. Inevitably, you will be frustrated and disappointed when these failures happen. Some people may initially resist or try to pressure you. Unless someone threatens to harm you, it's entirely up to you what you accept or reject. Remain firm but kind, and remember that respecting your boundaries fosters healthy relationships in the long run. Sometimes you'll feel guilty for setting boundaries, and this is absolutely normal and common. Setting boundaries is part of self-care process, and they are equally crucial in personal and in professional settings. Setting healthy boundaries protects your well-being and prevents manipulation. People are different, and so are the things they are willing to accept. Your boundaries are informed by your personal history. Depending on your childhood, cultural background, and past relationships, you might develop boundaries differently. There are healthy and unhealthy boundaries that people often develop. Unhealthy boundaries can be of two types: weak boundaries and strict or rigid boundaries. Weak boundaries are boundaries that are too flexible to protect your needs. They make it hard to say no to people, even when you're already feeling overwhelmed, and include a desire to make everyone happy, fear of rejection, and needing approval from others. On the other hand, if you have strict boundaries, you might refuse to forgive friends for minor offenses and instead opt to cut them out completely. While this might keep those people from hurting you, setting such strict boundaries may lead you to lose friends and experience loneliness. Keep in mind that while it's natural to feel uncomfortable during conflict, productive conflict can also help individuals and relationships to grow. By the way, I have a video coming up about how to have productive conflicts, so smash the subscribe button to not miss it. You might develop strict boundaries if others have taken advantage of you in the past. In contrast to weak and strict boundaries, healthy boundaries allow you to prioritize your needs without pushing others away or allowing them to take advantage of you. You probably have healthy boundaries. If you're able to maintain close and comfortable relationships, you're comfortable saying no, and you're also comfortable when people in your life say no to you. Boundaries define the space between people, keeping us from controlling each other and losing independence in our relationships. Tawwab believes that healthy boundaries develop when the trauma of past relationships doesn't strongly affect your current ones. Of course, course, we're always affected by our past to some degree, but if you have healthy boundaries, you're also likely to be relating to your past in a healthy way. There are two categories of boundaries you'll want to consider: personal boundaries and social boundaries. Your personal boundaries are your standards for how people should treat your physical body. Personal boundaries specify what level of physical and sexual contact, if any, you're comfortable with in your relationships. For example, there are people who tend to hug or touch everybody they come in contact with, even if they see them for the first time, while for others, this is a big no-no that makes them feel uncomfortable. Compared to personal or physical boundaries, your social boundaries set expectations and standards for how others should speak to and about you, how you share your time with others, and how others should treat your belongings. To identify your social boundaries, consider a social situation in which someone else made you feel uncomfortable. For instance, when someone yells at you, a good way to respond would be, "I don't respond to this volume. I don't allow people to speak to me this way," and say that slowly at a volume that is below your normal conversational tone. After you understand the boundaries you want to set, here comes the hard part. How do you communicate your boundaries effectively? There are right and wrong ways to do it. Also, boundaries can be implicit or explicit. Sometimes people violate our implicit boundaries, and we expect them to know that. It's easy to assume that you don't need to communicate your boundaries to your loved ones because they know you well enough to understand how you'd like to be treated without having to be told. However, friends, partners, and family members can't read minds, which means that, as always, it's best to explicitly state your boundaries with them, regardless of how close your relationships are. Recent research suggests that in a romantic relationship, partners are good at knowing when you're happy, but struggle to recognize when you're feeling upset. As the research suggests, loved ones won't know you're uncomfortable until you tell them. Use clarity and compassion. Explain your boundaries assertively but not aggressively, emphasizing your needs and respecting others' feelings. Focus on solutions rather than blaming or accusing. So avoid using accusing tone and repeatedly saying you, always, never. People tend to become defensive when they hear accusations in their address. Express your feelings and how their behavior makes you feel, and try to brainstorm together what to change to meet both needs effectively. How not to set boundaries. What are communication patterns to avoid, as opposed to healthy, effective methods for communicating and reinforcing boundaries? Many people use passive aggression, and manipulation to communicate their needs. Passive aggression involves doling out consequences for violations without first taking time to communicate your boundaries. It can be easy to fall into this pattern. When someone does something you don't like, many people find it natural to sulk or retaliate. For example, when you decide to play the game, "I will show you with my body language or with my silence that I'm upset, and let's see how long it will take you to guess what's wrong with me." However, behaving passive-aggressively usually doesn't help you get your needs met because the other person won't know what they've done wrong or how to do better until you tell them. Aggression is exactly what it sounds like. Getting upset and raising your voice, shaming people, and picking fights in response to unwanted behaviors. While aggressive communication can help you get your point across, it will also make others afraid of you and may even make them retreat from the relationship entirely. Finally, manipulation involves using indirect methods to try to get what you want without directly communicating your boundaries. Often, manipulators try to use guilt to get other people to do what they want. Just like aggression, manipulation makes other people feel fearful and uncomfortable, and it might cause people to resent you or leave relationships with you. Now that we've covered what healthy and unhealthy boundaries are and the effective and ineffective ways to communicate them, it's important to remember that healthy boundaries are flexible and adaptable. While having clear guidelines is important, be prepared to adjust them as needed based on context, relationships, and evolving circumstances. Rigidity can be as harmful as having no boundaries at all. Setting boundaries is an ongoing process, not a one-time event. As you grow and your life changes, your boundaries may also need to evolve. Regularly revisit and adjust them to ensure they continue to serve you well. Be patient. No matter how much effort you put into setting healthy boundaries, some people may still choose not to respect them. Part of setting boundaries is learning to accept that you can't control other people. No matter how much effort you apply, you simply can't force others to change. Instead, spend that energy thinking about how you'd like to handle things going forward and what actions you can take to protect your boundaries better. In summary, sticking to your boundaries can be challenging. You may believe that setting boundaries is selfish or unloving, but boundaries are essential for healthy relationships and personal growth. Be kind to yourself when you slip up, but also hold yourself accountable and gently guide yourself back on track. Establishing and enforcing boundaries can boost self-esteem and self-worth by demonstrating to ourselves and others that our needs matter and they must not be ignored. With that being said, thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe so you don't miss the next video, and see you the next time. Bye.